Live. And we're live. It's great.
Am I looking good here?
Yeah. I have a hat on today because my hair isn't that great. Yeah. Anyways, welcome to our second live.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining in. Really appreciate it. Let's start with some updates, shall we?
Yep.
All right, cool. So good news. System design, we have actually written and filmed the system design portion. So I'm super excited about that. We're currently editing it. And by we, I mean our friend Matt Cho is editing it. So that's really good. And then also we have another portion called like transitioning from data science to software engineering. So this is also going to be part of the course now. And yeah, we also written it and filmed it. And then now we're just like editing it. So yeah, it's
so
pretty cool.
we are continuing to develop out this course. The systems design portion is actually pretty bulky. There's a number of episodes that we're filmed for you. We're also going to probably be adding some additional content after this. Maybe another mock interview, which I know a lot of you guys found useful. So yeah, we'll get that going for you guys.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so if ever you see that the quality is kind of shitty, you just have to wait a little bit because YouTube usually has to wait a bit. Like for example, for Justin Lin, it's 420p, so that works. So you just have to wait a bit. So I guess what we can do is instead of going to the bulk of the course, we can just wait a little bit for people to set in, and let me know in the chat if it's good now, just so we know that it works or not. Yeah, it takes a few minutes, but we sound crisp, so that's good. The sound quality is really good.
Yeah, the sound matters. So
yeah, the sound is. I mean, I don't want maybe we did it on purpose so that you guys don't see our complexion, but yeah. Cool. So we also had a. Should we talk about the Daily Interview Pro?
Yeah, sure. So a number of you guys have been asking about this new product that we launched, dailyinterviewpro.com, which you can check out. And you've been asking if there is any way we can provide it to you guys for a lower cost and the system that we're using, it's not really, it doesn't really provide you a way to do it. But what we can do is at least get you guys a 50% discount, which brings the cost down to like $5 a month. It's super cheap. It's like a beer a month or something like that.
Yeah,
so if you're
much.
interested in it, you can check it out. It's just more additional interview practice. So what this does is every day you get a interview question. If you put in the $5, we also send you our solutions with the whole time space analysis. We check all the answers, we check the questions, we make sure that it's something that a real company would actually ask you. So it's just some good additional practice for you guys.
Yeah. So just to say specifically what it is, once you sign up, you could sign up for free, and then you get one interview question that's handpicked by us. It's usually questions from FANG, and then you get that in your inbox. And then if you pay monthly, you get the solutions also. That's written by both of us.
Yeah. Right. So that discount is going to be at dailyinterviewpro.com/private. So please don't share that. It's just for you guys.
Yeah.
And check that out.
Cool. And I just want to have a quick shout out. Thank you again, Justin Lin, for setting this Discord up. So I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys like it. And also, yeah, like I said, or like we said, the group, you can do whatever you want with it. So this is your community now. Like soon, a lot of you are going to be alumni. A lot of you are going to be working at FANG and stuff like that. And then hopefully, once you guys work at FANG, you guys can give back to the community. But yeah, I really like this because this is like the beginning of something really, really, really big. And I think this professional network that we created here is going to be like probably the best professional network for FANG or like software engineering. So I think this is a really, really good step.
Yeah, that Discord server I thought was pretty neat actually, right? Like you can go on there and I think you could probably set up mock interviews with each other. It would be impossible for us to do this for everybody, but just pair up and you can get some additional practice that way.
Quick question. If you do the Daily Interview Pro and you go for the Pro option, do you get all the solutions from previous?
Yes.
Okay.
So I coded this up for you guys. There's no bugs. It's solid. So of course you will be getting these solutions. It's flawless code really. And Yeah, the link for the Discord, somebody asked about that, is in the Facebook group. Just go through the post.
Yeah,
and
we could
you'll
just
find that.
pin it as an announcement later. But yeah, so what we talked about just now, there's a link on this video on YouTube of the dailyinterviewpro.com/private. So you could click that. And then there's also another thing, TripleByte, which I'll talk about that later. And Ian Daniel asked what Discord is. Discord is a chat server. You usually just go there and chat. So it's kind of like the Facebook group, but instead it's like real time, synchronous. Cool. All right. So let's go to the questions now. So the first question was, can I ask about how the mentorship works? I messed up on an interview and I don't know exactly where I messed up because no feedback. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to address is about like the no feedback thing. This is very common.
They don't give you feedback.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it works. There's multiple reasons. I mean, I guess the first reason is that there's no advantage for them to tell you what the feedback is, just because yeah, why don't they give feedback again?
It's a legal liability,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
right.
as soon as they say, well, there's two candidates who are performing the same, and they say, well, but you performed well, you performed well. How come one got in, the other didn't? Was it because of race or gender or whatever? And then they open themselves up to lawsuits. Um, and the actual interview is just not the place to learn, right? That's the that's the exam. So when you're doing your learning, you need to do that in other venues. So don't count on it. Sometimes, if you're lucky, they will give you a little bit of feedback. Like they'll say maybe your systems design was not as strong as it should be, and that may be all you can get, really. So
Yeah, and about the mentorship, like how does it work? Like this is basically the mentorship because you have fully access to us during this live, and then also like during our Facebook group conversation and stuff like that. Like we believe that this is the most scalable way we can do it, and we're giving pretty much like the high touch of interactions with you guys. We pretty much are almost always on the Facebook groups,
yeah,
and we try to answer as many questions as possible, even like during work. To be honest, for me.
yeah, I'm on the Facebook group at least like an hour every evening, maybe more than maybe 2 hours, and just going through and answering whatever I can, reviewing your resumes. So, and the great thing is that if I answer one question for one person, everybody gets to see that answer, right? So it just saves a lot of time for
Right.
all of us.
Because maybe sometimes you don't even know that you had that question,
Yeah.
but then you learn something new because of another person's question, maybe something that you never thought about, right?
And I think written form is actually better because it allows me to come to my thoughts, right? I can think about something before just randomly
That's
saying
true.
something and not giving a really well thought out answer.
That's true. That's true. Like, for example, if you had to do an interview and you could just do it asynchronously, wouldn't that be great? Yeah. Anyways, so next question is, if you asked to solve a NP hard question during a phone screen and you can't do it, how to handle the situation gracefully? Yeah. So for me, I personally think that whenever they ask you like an NP hard question, they're kind of not testing you for like correctness, or like even they don't expect you to solve it. What they expect you to do is to actually struggle, because it is an NP hard question, right? So you're not supposed to solve it in a very optimal way, because there isn't an optimal way. It's NP hard. So I think what they care about is either one or two things. The first thing is that they want you to identify that it is an NP hard question. So if you saw that it was an NP hard question, that might be already good.
Well, let me ask you, have you ever gotten an NP hard question in an interview?
I haven't, but my friends said they have. I don't know if it's true, because maybe they just couldn't find the solution, but they told me it was an NP hard question.
So this is my concern. It's like you think it's NP hard because it sounds very similar. But if you listen to the question more carefully, you may find that there's an additional restriction, right? Like, oh, it's actually sorted. And then because it's sorted, right, maybe it's not NP hard anymore. So generally, like if it's an NP hard question, it's not considered a good interview question. And especially like FANG interviewers take a lot of pride in the questions that they ask. And usually it is made to give you very good, strong signal. And it's not just like anybody who just goes up and just starts asking you questions. They're usually trained. They do a few shadow interviews, which is, it means they they just sit in on a real interview and they get that training, and then they learn how to do a real interview, and then they interview you. So before you just go off and think that it's NP hard and like this is a trick question and there's no solution, I think carefully before you just jump to that conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's a congratulations to Shravan Kumar. He said, I just cleared Uber.
Oh,
Thanks
nice.
to you guys. They asked a hard graph diff for search. And then should I expect more complex questions in on-site? Any tips for system design? I could actually ask my friend who is at Uber now. So maybe I could give you some insight tip. Yeah, just message me on Facebook later, and then maybe I could tell you. But let me just tell you that they do ask system design even for L3s. And actually, no, he was an L4. So for L4, definitely they ask. But yeah, let's not get too sidetracked, and then we'll continue with the questions. All right. So
I met another guy today actually at work who he just I meet people all the time actually who say they join because like we've been helping them out.
Nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met this guy. He was actually a contractor at Google. He was trying to get into like full time, and yeah, I ate lunch with him. And he's in the course. Are you here? If you're here, say something in the chat.
Yeah, there's another guy at work who actually messaged me and said he wants to join this group because, and even though he's working in like Fang, right? Like they still want to learn to be able to jump across companies. So
yeah, that's true.
Like this is what I'm saying. Like interviewing is a lifelong skill, right? Even after you get into like a nice position, you only stay there like 2-3 years or something, and then you want to switch over to say Google or something like that.
Yeah.
You need to still be good at interviewing skills even there.
Yeah, I mean, like if you see one guy and if they stayed at a FANG company for 4 years versus another guy who switched maybe once or twice between those 4 years, the person who switched would probably have a higher total compensation. So a lot of people are into that jumping thing, but there's a pros and cons. But one of the pros is definitely more money. So
yeah, I mean, like we saw Clement recently. He quit Google, right? So he switched, and I know some of the reasons why he switched, right? But it's like there's so many good reasons to switch, right? Like one is you gain more breadth of experience, right? Like if you were to stay at Google for 8 years, your skills become outdated. You only know one specific technology. You don't have like a breadth of background. You don't get like sign-on bonuses whenever you switch companies. So yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good reason to switch, and especially nowadays in Silicon Valley, it's not frowned upon to switch every like 1 or 2 years, because I remember hearing a lot of questions asking when can you switch or would it look bad on your resume. Not here, not in Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
so,
it's fine. It's totally normal.
Yeah. All right. So next question. Oh, may I ask how does 1 year fast tracking and get a referral from our network work? Okay, yeah. So basically, this is a little bit similar to the question about the question about like this group. So when we talk about network, I mostly mean like our connections, or at least like my connections. I have like at least kind of like one friend in each of like the FANG company, like you name it. I mean, I'm very grateful for that.
You have friends?
I know. Well, I mean, that's why I said my network, not your network.
Well, that's why it took you so long to get into Sui.
Okay, all right. But anyways, yeah. So basically, how the referral works, it's pretty much just like how normal referrals work between people. It's at their discretion, right? Like I don't work at every one of those companies. I work in one of them. And then if ever you guys want to work for like a certain company, then I have to connect you to that person and then they'll refer you. However, we can't just refer everyone, right? Because it's actually going to dilute the value of our referral. And we don't want to do that, because once we dilute the value of a referral, like the HR department won't take our referral seriously. And then it might actually hurt you guys more than it doesn't. So that's why for us, how we select people, we kind of see who's working like very hard, who's showing a lot of determination and ambition. And through that, we can see in the group, because we interact in the group a lot.
Yeah, so it's not like you just give an email address. You actually have to write a whole page explaining the detail in which you know somebody and how you work with the person. So getting to know somebody, you know, in some higher level of context is going to be needed there.
Yeah, so we actually have to know you or like understand like how you work. We kind of have to work together in some ways. But so yeah, so that's why we need a lot of signal from you guys. And part of these signals would be kind of understanding what do you guys do during the group. You have to have like visibility, like yeah. So and then one more thing is that like we thought of a really, really good way to kind of give us even more signal. So there's this website called like TripleByte. TripleByte, I actually learned about it while I was interviewing for other companies.
Yeah.
Because when I was interviewing for FANG companies, I saw this like ad. It was like TripleByte. I clicked into it, and then what they do is they make you do a quiz, and then the quiz is actually not that easy. It's actually not that easy, and they actually ask you like, oh, do you want to do iOS, general backend, and they even like ask you questions that gets harder and harder if you get them right, or they like move into like certain things that your strengths are. So it's really good. It's actually super comprehensive. And then once you answer this quiz, they have kind of like a comprehensive understanding of who you are. You can either pass or fail the quiz. If ran out of battery, yeah,
Is the sound okay now?
it should be okay, but it might run out of battery. So okay, I'm gonna re-say everything, and then actually I'm just gonna move and then grab the battery, but I could talk at the same time. So yeah, so TripleByte, what they do is like after you pass the interview, they all right, should be good now. I just replaced the batteries.
Don't worry, I type fast. I can do like 140 words per
Yeah,
minute.
why don't we just do this by chat
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
video?
I'm good. Don't worry, guys. I got this.
All right, cool. So, all right, let me explain for the third time. So, once you pass the interview for TripleByte, you're an accepted candidate. And then what they would do is that they would show your profile to a bunch of startup to mid-sized companies, and then you could skip the phone interview right away and just do the on-site. So, and then TripleByte actually takes like I think like maybe 10% of your starting salary if you get a job through them. I forgot the details, but the thing that's useful for that is that you can show us that you've passed it because their interview process is actually pretty good, like in terms of comprehensive. Like yeah, Justin Lin said TripleByte is so hard. Like yeah, it is quite hard, but like if you pass that, then you have a really really good chance in passing like FANG interviews, right? So that's like a good way for us to know or to get signal from you guys. So if you guys pass the TripleByte interview and you get accepted, send us a message, and then I could easily refer you to like any of the companies, and then I'll just find a friend that works there.
Yeah, so TripleByte is one way, and we have a link for you in the video description if you
Yeah.
want to check that out. And I think like it's free, right? Like
Yep.
people can so you
Yep,
can
yep.
just try it for free if you like. There's also any number of programs or things. So like if you just feel that your qualifications are very strong, then we can try and get you guys set up. But the thing is like if you're starting out, just going straight into say Google, that's gonna. I mean, it's tough, and it may not be the best path for everybody right away, right? Like there may be say startups and stuff that you can go through if you're ready. If you feel you're ready to go straight to Google, then yeah, go through TripleByte or like find some qualifications there, and then we can get you guys set up there.
All right. Cool. Let's see.
Because we get that sweet referral bonus.
Hell yeah. I mean, we want to refer you too. I mean, if you get in, we get a lot of cash. So yeah. All right. What opportunities do you see in the future with different engineering tracks? Is one better for entrepreneurial successful odds? I could answer the first part of the question. The second part of the question, I'm not quite sure. So whoever asked that, if you're in the chat, just make it a little bit more specific. Like, do you mean like you want to do a startup? If you mean you want to do a startup, then kind of like say it so that I know how to answer it. Yeah. But in terms of opportunities in the future of different engineering tracks, I think this is quite hard to predict, right? Because
I have an idea.
You do have an idea? Yeah. Okay, well, tech lead is tech lead and he has an idea. But for me, I think it's kind of hard to predict new technologies. So, I mean, they come up every year. You know, I'm guessing like ML is pretty like hot right now because everyone's going into it. But what's your...
Yeah, so ML is sort of hot. It's been picking up over the last few years, like 4 or 5 years or so. It used to be nothing, but now it's taking up some portion of the hiring pipeline, but it's not everything, right? Like iOS and Android are still pretty strong, and they probably represent like 30% of hiring, right? Then you have like generalists, product generalists, say, which are like very good at front end, client work, feature work, right? And this is full stack. You have like, say, web front end JavaScript stuff, which is not full stack. That's just purely focused on front end. And then you have like, say, back end infrastructure type of work, like not really UI, but just a generalist back end. Data engineering, coming up with like REST APIs, hooking up various systems. So, you know, these are some of the primary areas that you may want to look into. What's good for entrepreneurial? Full stack engineering, right? That's your standard web full stack will automatically allow you to ship a complete product and start bringing users in. And so that's what I have been doing. So it's important to realize, I would say, that if your focus is purely on JavaScript front end, that's actually a decent way to get in. That's an entry point, and there are some roles for that. But I would say that you still generally want to move towards full stack, or bring in some of that back-end engineering, which is viewed as more of a meatier area. You know, which is why we kind of recommend going with, say, Python for a lot of the interview stuff, because even if you know JavaScript and you just love JavaScript, bringing in some of that Python work will just make your resume look a lot stronger. Usually when I look at a resume, I'm like looking for a set of languages, right? Like if all you have is like Java and C, that just feels pretty sparse, right? Even JavaScript just feels a little sparse. Like I expect to see, you know, like Java, C, JavaScript, Python, and then a number of frameworks, say. Something like that, starting to look pretty strong there. Ideally, you don't necessarily need it if you're good in other areas, but that's what I like to see.
So imagine if someone is just that just finished CS undergrad, and then they have to specialize in something. Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think I mean, I had this discussion at lunch today, actually, where like I was sitting next to some Android engineers, and I was asking them, because like I do iOS, and I was thinking, iOS is starting to feel a little weak as a career option. It's still great, but it is primarily supported by the US audience, and Apple is getting a little weak in their hardware. Android seems very good, very strong, and you've got like Kotlin now, which is a pretty nice language. Full stack is also very strong. Any type of web full stack, everybody loves that stuff. Startups are gonna want you for that. ML, if you're like, I think ML is tough. We all love ML, and I even heard a guy at work say like, he only wants to do cool ML, like cool model ML, but he doesn't want to do normal ML. And like everybody wants to do the cool stuff, and it's so competitive these days. And you need like, I don't know if you guys realize, but for ML, like machine learning, you generally need pretty good experience and education for that. So it's great to have an interest in it, and it's very relevant, but I wouldn't say it's the easiest entry point. unless you maybe build it up over time through, say, like a startups, and once you get that experience, then like Fang will be able to bring you in on that.
Yeah, to be honest, if you work for Fang as an ML engineer, most of the time it wouldn't be the sexy ML, right? Like if you go to Google, you would have to go to Google X to do all the cool ML stuff. Usually, if you do ML, to be quite frank, like I'm in a team as a software engineer that does ML, and like I'm not called like an ML engineer, but I work with people who do ML, and I also have a team that's actually called like an ML team, and most of them, what you do day to day isn't like the super sexy like thinking of like great ways of using deep neural networks and stuff. You do use deep neural networks, that's true, but there are frameworks that are already built for you to utilize that. The thing that you'll be doing the most is feature cleaning, writing data pipelines to pipe all these features into like your model, and then also monitoring, because you always have to make sure you have to build all these monitorings and alerts to make sure that your model doesn't drift into like something that isn't good anymore. You always have to make sure that, oh yeah, you also do like very small optimization just to optimize like AUC, which is area under the curve. So these things are actually not super fun. But if you're into like ML engineer, then yeah, you could do that. That's definitely not a bad idea. You might still need some of these people.
I also think it's more of a junior thing to really care deeply about like they want to do like the cool ML. After a while, it's like even if you're working on just like refactoring the settings page, that's fine too. That's still it's okay. It's not bad.
Yeah. I actually would like that because like that's a big scope anyways. But yeah. All right. So, but I actually had something else to say about it may be because I'm more junior and like young, but I do truly believe that you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself into like one role or like even one job. Because I think the whole point, like you never know what's going to happen in the future in the world. Like maybe software engineering will not exist. I doubt it. But let's just have like a thought experiment. If that doesn't exist anymore, what are you going to do? Right? Are your skills transferable? So, I mean, I personally think that you should just be a really good learner, right? Like you should just be a person that is a lifelong learner and you always improve on your skills. Like no matter where you get put, like maybe like that's just my opinion. Like if I was put into data science, I crush it. I put into PM, I crush it. I go to suite, I crush it.
So there are many different types of engineers. Like Joma, you're probably like a generalist, almost like a PM interest, right? Like general product interest. And I'm probably kind of like that too, but there are other people who are like, they are only interested in video codecs and they super specialize in that. And if you're like a pro at video codecs and quality in video infra, you can get a job at any company because everybody cares about video. Right. So that's one way to do it. And some people will build their entire careers out of that.
Yeah, that's actually quite true. If ever your skill sets are like super niche, for example, some PhD students, they might get like really specific jobs at specific companies, and you could get like lots of money for that just because your skill is so high in demand, but also so scarce.
It's very risky too, though.
For sure. All right. So next question. How do you guys, wait, I just want to look at the chat a little bit. Why is this person, okay. Anyways, how do you guys mentally prepare yourself in between each back-to-back interview hourly session in the scenario that you fall in one? All right, this sentence. Okay. So I think basically the question is, yeah, how do you mentally prepare for back-to-back interviews? And then you fail one of them and you're like, oh shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
It does happen. It does happen. Do you have anything to say about that?
So I think one thing that you definitely need to do is get a good night's rest. Like you need to get your sleep in. Otherwise you will be burned out. I remember one time I was at a Microsoft interview and I was so burned out on the last interview with the hiring manager. And like he wanted me to write perfectly runnable code. And that was several years ago. Like I passed all the interviews. That last one, he spent like 90 minutes with me on that one. I couldn't get it. So yeah.
That sucks.
Because I had burned out pretty much, like I just couldn't think. So yeah, I think you gotta get your sleep. I know like what it's like to be there. I will actually be drinking coffee a lot. What I do is I would just drink like a double shot espresso, like between each
Oh shit.
interview, and I would just load up on caffeine throughout the day, which may burn you out by the last interview.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like this question specifically says like when you fail one of them or your first one, I would like to say that I have the answer for that, but it's just a personality thing. I'm pretty bad at that because just like in video games where if I have like a slight disadvantage against someone, I'm just like, oh screw it, I lost, right? It's very possible that you think that way. So the best advice I can give is remember that even if you fail one interview, it does not mean that you don't get the offer. Sometimes there could be an interview that says, "Oh, you're a no, like a weak no hire." But then if every other interview says you're a strong hire, then you actually might get hired. So
Yeah.
not every single one. You don't need to ace every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there have been scenarios where I would just reject the candidate. I'll give him like the worst possible score,
Yeah, see?
but he will pass every other interviewer, and then I would see he gets in or she, right? Um, and that could simply be because sometimes like I'm interviewing somebody for like my type of colleague, which is like general, say, iOS engineer. But this person is actually going for a junior role as a front-end engineer, and they don't need all of those skills that I'm asking for. The other way to think about this is that it's still excellent practice, right? Like, yeah, maybe you still bombed the first one. You don't know, like, it's not over until it's over. And it's generally going to be good practice such that you can still try and do your best, and maybe next time when you go to your next interview, maybe you missed this one, right? Apply to say Airbnb or Uber or Lyft or whatever, right? There's so many companies you can try for, and then see if you can do better there, and that practice will help you out.
Cool. So yeah, and then the second question is pretty similar. It's about mental fatigue. So we kind of already addressed that. So I'm gonna skip it.
Do you drink coffee or anything, or do you just go for water?
I go for water and I pee in between every interview because I just drink too much water. I also get nervous too. When I get nervous, I pee a lot. But yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I actually don't drink coffee while I do the interview. Yeah.
That could work. Like Joma's passed a ton of interviews, so that taking a little break may help clear your mind. But
oh no, like I don't. It's just because like they tell me like to go to the bathroom. Like they always ask me, "Oh, do you need to go to the bathroom?" And I just go. But I might lose a few minutes for my interview, which isn't the best. Like if I didn't need to go to the bathroom, I wouldn't go. Like I'm just saying, like it's a like I don't want to go to the bathroom, but I just have to physically.
Yeah, well, I do think that keeping yourself hydrated throughout the day is very good to do. And I think I mentioned this before, but like so many candidates come in and they don't eat their lunches.
Oh, they don't? Wait, so when they have their lunch interview, they just don't eat?
It's like they get something super light and they almost all say, I don't want dessert. And it's like, come on, like this is your one chance, possibly, like just live it up a bit. And the lunch interview is completely ungraded. You can do whatever. So just enjoy yourself, take a break there.
Nice.
And that's a good time to relax too. Yeah, you don't have to stress out during that time. You can say nothing during that or just chill out.
Pretty much. It's your time. You could do whatever you want with it. Just don't say anything that's extremely like bad or inappropriate because they could report you. But
I don't think they would.
Really? Oh, okay. I'm not sure because I never tried. So oops, sorry, I never tried. But yeah. Wait, there was one thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah. So yeah, the drinking water stuff, like it's you, like you personally, it depends of you, right? Because I never drink coffee in general, right? I never drink coffee in general.
Yeah, but I think water the hydration is gonna be still good.
Oh yeah, hydration is always good. Cool. All right, so the next question is it's more for me. It's like clarify the difference between data analyst and machine learning positions. You could just check out my video on what is data science. I kind of talk about that really. I talk about that a lot actually, but I could give you a quick summary. So machine learning engineers, that's a lot closer to SWE, right? Because you're going to be building products and you're going to be like writing code and stuff like that. And then sometimes for normal SWEs, they could actually transition into ML engineers, most ML engineers, they're either masters or PhDs because you have to know an extensive knowledge about machine learning. But sometimes if you do work as a SWE and you work at a team that does a lot of ML, you could like kind of force yourself in, learn the ropes, and then have some mentors and then build you up, because that's what a company's there for, so that you could learn. And then data analyst, that's, I personally think that's like a totally different job. A data analyst can also be considered not technical, right? Yes, you do like SQL. What's up?
So says he types so slow, and I will cut off his hands. That's true. I will. I don't tolerate slow typers.
Yeah, but anyways, a data analyst, it's you just do SQL. It's more of like a data conscious or like a data driven PM job. So you don't have to like, but except that you don't have to handle like execution part of the PM.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two jobs is actually totally different.
Yeah, so I want to emphasize this. Like, I've answered a number of questions in the group actually related to this. Look for other types of roles. Like, there's not just software engineering. This was one big mistake I made too. Like, I thought there's only software engineering. That's the one I'm just going to apply for. But there may be other interesting roles. Like, you went for a data scientist, and that actually turns out to be a pretty interesting role, which doesn't have that strong technicals required. And it's a good entry point, and it suits like your statistics. You know statistics and presentation and communication skills, and that works out nicely. And you can ease into machine learning if you really want to, but don't get so stuck up on like it's got to be machine learning. For some reason, there's a lot of hype around that.
Yeah, it's new because it's press. It's the press because AI is really cool right now, and Elon Musk is talking about AI a lot. New AI cars, all these new. Well, actually, all these startups always put AI in their title, so that's why people are really into it now. But you really have to ask yourself, like, are you doing this just because of the press, or are you doing this for you? And do you even know what it is that you're getting into, right? Like, for example, for me, I wanted to do PM. I thought PM was so cool, right? That like all my friends told me like, yeah, PM is the shit because that's basically like the path to CEO, right? But then once I worked at Facebook a little bit more, or like when I worked at internship at Microsoft as a PM, I was like, wow, this is a lot of dirty work. This is not that fun.
Plus, PMs aren't very popular from your last video. You can see no one cares about
Yeah,
PMs.
exactly. That video did terrible on my channel. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, yeah, don't forget to check that video, but you know what? If you don't care, just don't even watch it.
There's another interesting role I saw, data engineer.
Oh,
so I was looking up Hacker News's hiring list, which you guys should check out. Every month they post jobs from startups, which I think is a great way to apply for jobs. By the way, I also recommend angel.co, which I know a lot of people. So that's an angel founded companies. They're startups usually looking for people, and they don't have much funds. So nobody gets like a huge salary, but it could just be what you're looking for, right? To get your foot in the door, build some experience. So it turns out that like data engineer, there was a bunch of positions for that. And I hadn't heard about this too much, but there's a bunch of people, even my company, who are data engineers. These are people who they write SQL queries, they write Python scripts, and then they just ingest data, right? They bring in user data, format it, mold it a bit, and then output it into another table that is just more easily queryable. So in this scenario, if all you know is say some SQL, some Python, that can get you set up into like entry-level data engineering role, which is going to require less like algorithms and data structures if you don't feel that you want to go that route quite yet.
Yeah. My friend Cyrus started as a data engineer at Facebook.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's why he wanted to switch into SWE, and then and then he was able to, because even with data engineering as a stepping stone, he was easily able to switch into SWE. Right.
Do you know is he CS background?
Yeah, he's CS background. Yeah, he has CS background.
Interesting. So I wonder why he went for data engineering instead of.
Yeah. So the reason was he had a CS background in like a small liberal arts college that isn't very popular or well known. So then he started as a job at like kind of like I forgot what the company was called, but basically it's not a top tier like big tech company. It wasn't in Silicon Valley. He was a software engineer, I believe, and then he wanted to get into FANG. He just wanted to get, that was his goal, right? And then he applied to like different SWE jobs, And then in the end, he only got data engineer because he didn't get into like Sui, or he just tried to maximize his chance into getting into Facebook or maybe Google, but basically just one of these two top companies, because he knows that with that name on your resume, you can pretty much go anywhere. And that's exactly what he did. He came to Facebook, did really well, just so that.
So, I mean, when he applies to Facebook, he can choose like 3 roles. So he probably put Sui, data engineer.
And he read a lot that data engineer is a lot. Sometimes it's easier to get in, especially.
I think
because,
it is. Yeah. I mean, those data engineers don't do anything.
Yeah, not gonna lie. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit easier because you do a lot of SQL code and you just write pipelines, and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah. So take a look at all the other types of roles. I know there's so many roles that people haven't heard about. There's another one I know at YouTube where people would analyze customer data. Like they would actually like help. It's almost like customer support. But the guy he's called like a product specialist, I think. So he analyzes customer data and then writes scripts and creates a presentation and presents to the engineers about what people think about the product. And so it's very user facing, but then there's technicals involved as well. There's also a UX engineer, which is also easier to get in if you're really good at the visuals. And you know, for that one, like there's some people who, you know, they just like, I think UX engineer is so cool because they write prototype code.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, like at YouTube actually, there was a guy who he cloned the YouTube app, and he was the only guy working on it, and he just wrote prototype code and would come up with mock features and like demo features, and that was it. Coming up with demos, cool demos.
Actually, yeah, I've heard of a guy, like he was a manager at Snapchat, but his job was, I'm not sure if it was exactly his job, but he had a lot of reports, but he was kind of high up so that he was able to just do whatever he wants, write really crappy code, but just prototype well and just show what the features would look like. And then his reports would actually fix it for him in the end. But that's pretty dream job style.
Someone asks, do companies give time to learn tech we don't know?
Oh yeah, of course. For me, at least. For a junior.
I mean, Google has 20% time, which pretty much you can just, you still have, it's called 120% time because you just put in your additional time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, like, especially for junior or like internships, they don't expect you to know the whole tech stack. So I would consider learning the Google tech stack as learning time, right? Because nobody knows it until
the thing is, there's usually so much to learn that there's better things to do than to just learn, like, you know, React.js when you've got a whole bunch of other tech that you could be looking into. Say,
maybe I misunderstood the question. Did they mean like, do they give time to learn other crap that is not related to your job, or do they give time to learn the stuff that is for the job? Because if it's to learn stuff for the job, yeah, they'll let you learn it. You know, because you're not going to know everything in one shot, even if it's not a specific language. Just knowing how the company works or knowing how the system works, that's learning. And yeah, they'll let you learn. That's the whole point.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah. So how early into the job can you ask for a raise? What's the best way to ask for it at both a startup and FANG? I don't know about startups. I only know FANG. Because in FANG, I mean, it's standardized.
I don't think you should worry too much about the raise personally. Like, you're going to get, if you're in FANG, you're going to get paid. And they're not going to mess you up there. And the best way to get a raise is to switch companies.
That's true.
Like, jump to another company, pick up your signing bonus, which you can negotiate. Like, it could be considerable. Get a bump up. Like,
I mean, I went from like 150K to 240K by switching companies.
I heard our friend Clement, he switched companies. He got a huge bump as well. Primarily because when you work in a company for a long period of time, then you don't get like your stock refreshers and things like that. If you're at the startup, the pay's just not gonna be there probably. It's really more about the experience. So pick up that experience, and especially if you're like in a junior role, say, it's just not worth arguing about or worrying too much about, in my opinion.
I think you should worry more about like your long-term growth, because like if you compare L3 new grad salary, especially at startup, versus a FANG, L5, L6, it's like, what the fuck? Like you wouldn't even care. You should care more about knowing how to get promoted, knowing how to get better, and knowing how to like stay relevant.
Yeah, or work on like a side hustle, right? And that's another thing you can do if you want to focus on bumping that salary.
All right. So for the 150K to 240K, it's not like 100% true, because like right before I switched into the new company, I got promoted, and then when I got promoted, it kind of bumped me up to like 190 or like 180 to 190. So the bump was actually from like 180, 190 to 240, which is still big, but yeah, I don't want you guys to say, oh my god, that much, but yeah, but I think Cyrus got to jump like that too. Yeah. All right. Next question.
Of course, like, by the way, these numbers may sound a lot, but it's not in Silicon Valley. The cost of living here is just crazy. Like,
have you seen my apartment? It's so
yeah,
small.
the apartment is like 4,000 a month. Housing is ridiculous. It's like nobody here owns houses, right? Like even so it's a mode where like you can afford like Gucci items, but you don't even have a roof over your own house. You're like a homeless person wearing Gucci.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Could Joma please share some info on visa sponsorship and or green card? For those of H-1B, how hard is it to transfer to another company? So yeah, I'm an expert in that. Well, I'm not that expert, but I just want to say for FANG, you don't have to worry about that because they do it all for you. So what happened with me is when I was at Facebook, I was actually on a TN visa, and then I got the H-1B visa. And then once I got the H-1B visa, the transfer to my next company was actually a lot easier because the other company was also like a FANG company. And the reason why it's extremely easy is because every FANG company, they have a bunch of lawyers. They have a bunch of immigration lawyer. And H-1B transfer is especially easy because you just file a form to say that you want to transfer from one company to another. And then it just takes like, well, it depends, because sometimes they have halts like H-1Bs because the premium processing is in halt and stuff. Mine was a little bit in halt, so it took me like 4 months or something, 3-4 months. So I had to stay at Facebook for a while. I had to work there. Oh yeah, make sure that you don't quit before it's confirmed that your H-1B visa is actually transferred. So yeah, don't forget that. And yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, you don't need to think about it. As long as you pass the interview, they will want you enough such that they will do all the legal work for you. And even if you can't somehow get the H-1B visa transferred, they might have remote location offices where you could just work there. Like for example, at I think at I don't want to give too much, but at my FANG company, there are offices in Europe, and they put you there sometimes. Yes,
I've heard about that too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people from like on H-1Bs and odd visas, and they get stuck in other parts of the country now and then while they're like trying to get that sorted. So I wouldn't let that discourage you. There's a ton of people. So.
Wait, someone asked me about taxes. How much is your rent? Okay. I think we already passed that, but anyways. Confirmed. Joan's company is also in Europe. I mean, that doesn't give much. All right. Oh, this one, interesting one. You might be able to answer this one. The official Google interview prep guide. I've seen that prep guide too. The official Google interview prep guide has more complex algorithm as covered in the course, like Dijkstra, A-star. Should we prepare them as well? I saw that too. What do you?
Well, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I kind of know the answer. Like I've done the interviews, but
yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that the recruiters just has like a copy paste bunch of resources, and yeah, dude, I don't think you need them. For me, the only time that I need Dijkstra or A-star was the person kind of like talked about it, like, oh, imagine if like this graph is now not a tree anymore, but it's actually a graph. How would you find like the shortest path, blah, blah, blah. And then I just said like, oh yeah, I think Dijkstra is a good algorithm. He's like, yeah, that's good, but I'm not going to tell you to implement it because it's crazy. Like that's what the interviewer said. So I think you should know that they exist, know how they kind of work, but you don't need to implement. You don't need to memorize how to implement them. A rule of thumb for me, I don't know if it works 100% of the time, but at least for most interviews, if the algorithm is like more than maybe 30 lines, then you probably don't need to memorize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think Dijkstra's is probably a little bit too involved for most interviews. It's also extremely common, right? Like I think it would probably be banned if it was a question like that. Like if it's just way too common, but there may be variations. But even so, Dijkstra is like it's not that. It just takes too much time to write. Also, things like implementing a balanced binary search tree where you have to do the sifting and like that's probably a little bit too involved as well, generally speaking. Like I would be surprised if people ask something like that. To me, it's really more about like you take a problem and then you just build upon it and upon it and iterating upon it. That's how a really good interview question is, such that you get that signal, right? It's not like a simple, like that's why dynamic programming questions are banned at Facebook, because you just don't get that signal. You either got it or you didn't got it, like you didn't solve it. It's better if like there's many variations. There's a brute force, then there's like another version which is recursive, and then you can do it iteratively. You can just build upon that. Like that's a good question usually.
This guy said typing speed doesn't matter for interview. No, because like you're writing on the board, right? Aren't you writing on the board?
These days, actually, FANG companies will often actually allow you to type. They think that that's a better way to interview, perhaps. So I do recommend, if you are given the option to use a computer, and you may even want to ask, like just say, hey, do you offer a laptop option? Honestly, it is just going to save you time, right? Given the same problem, you'll just be able to get through much more.
But okay, even if you can use a Chrome, like a laptop, which I think you can, because you're right. Like in phone interviews, you do the typing. But if you're so good that the typing speed is your bottleneck, then you should be passing all the interviews, right? Because like if your typing speed is the bottleneck, then that means you already figured out how to solve it.
Well, like no, it's like the whiteboarding. It takes a good like 10 minutes to write everything. You know, like
no, like imagine if you had the solution in front of your face, like paper. I don't think it'll take you 10 minutes to write it, right? Just saying.
I mean, I write pretty slow. Okay. I type fast.
Okay. But yeah, so to answer your question, typing speed doesn't matter for interview. Sure, if your typing speed is really slow, you have to be at least like decently fast.
All right, we got 7 minutes left for our hour. So let's get through as many of these questions as we can.
Let's just do let's do the behavioral interviews. Are there books and resources that teach good workplace behavior and help prep for hypothetical situations? While he's doing that, I kind of want to answer Justin Lin's question. Justin Lin, he failed the inner TripleByte. He needs to do better on system architecture and low-level systems. Yeah, I'm surprised he failed that. Wait, do you have a CS degree? I'm not sure, because like a lot of the stuff they ask is like basic OS stuff. And yeah, you like if not, then you should get like a refresher course on like operating systems just to know like these little things. Because I did the quiz and I did pass it. Like I don't know how close I was. Anyways, carry on.
I mean, this is one book that some senior engineers had been recommending, by the way. It's On Writing Well. I've been reading it too. If you're interested in behavior and even resume writing, I mean, to give you a quick summary, it just tells you about how you need to be friendly and concise and all of that stuff. So the behavior portion to me is really about clarity, right? Technical clarity is the basis of that, in my opinion. So it's not about like.
What's the name of the book?
So this is called. Which one? This one is called On Writing Well.
On Writing Well. Let me write it down.
I think it's. So the crux of this book is kind of talking about how as soon as you start, like, you read like travel magazines, and it just sounds so cliche, and you can tell that it is scripted and like totally fake, even though the writing is beautiful and professional. And that's what this is about too. Like, you'll have resumes, or you may even go into the interview and you're trying to act professional, and you can just smell that a mile away. Real coworkers don't act like that to each other. So you're supposed to kind of go in there and not be like under somebody, or like, hi, yes, my name is John. Pleasure to meet you. Like, by that point, it's like already a superior person, like dominating and subservient attitude. And I don't think that's the way you want to do this. Where it's like, let me ask you a question and you answer it. Like, tell me about this.
Yeah.
Going there like a colleague, and so maintaining that genuine cordialness, and then being very concise, leaving out any unneeded words would just save you on that time. So that's kind of what the book's been going on about, and also how I recommend that you structure your resumes, how you talk about things in interviews. It's really about going into technical depth, watching the interviewer, right? Check their eyes, check that they are following you, because as soon as you lose them and they look bored and you just go on and on, you're just burning your own time there.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up now because we have 5 minutes left. So I think what we'll do is you can ask the questions on the live chat, and then we'll look at some of them and we'll answer some of them.
Yeah.
And I also realized I screwed up something. This live video is public, which so everyone can join, but it's on my other accounts, so that's why there's less people. And that's like I thought something was weird in the chat.
Okay, well, that's a free sample.
That's a free sample. That's a free sample of our live. Okay.
And your old viewers are probably so confused.
Like, yeah. That's why there was one comment. Kevin Kim says, "What is this?" Because I used to do travel vlogs. Because this channel is where I do travel vlogs. Yeah, Kevin Kim, right? I'm pretty sure he doesn't care about tech. But anyways, let's read about the tech questions. Which are the best master's program that FANG companies select candidates from? I'm not quite sure, but CMU is quite popular. Harvard is quite popular. Stanford is quite popular for masters.
I mean, those are overkill, really.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's so overkill. I think you don't need like some blue collar degree, pedigree degree like that. Like, it would be rare if I saw people from such top tier schools.
Oh, no, never mind. Kevin Kim is actually from the group. Sorry, my bad. Because I wasn't sure why you said like, oh, what is this? I thought you might have been my old viewers.
Do FANG companies look at online masters differently? So honestly, like, by the time you get into the on-site or even the phone interview, I barely care about your degree. I care about your performance, right? So like, your school gets you, it's like it gets you in the door, but then you need to be able to perform at that point. And I would say that where the masters really shines is, say you've already gotten in, and maybe several years later people are looking to promote somebody to manager, director, and then they see, oh, this person's got a graduate degree, they're on the fast track, let's just like get that person, to become a lead or something like that, because they have that background, and then that depth would show in that scenario. But it's like, it doesn't matter what age or gender or background you have. I don't care. If you come in and I give you like a whiteboarding question and you solve it beautifully, and you give all that analysis and the pros and cons, and if I say, okay, well, tell me about yourself, and you got a few pet projects that are where you took the initiative and you showed me that, it's like, wow, that person, I don't care what the paper said, that person beat all the other interviews that I have been doing, all the other on-sites, this person just did better than all of that. So that's what would set you apart there.
Cool. All right. One last question, or maybe one or two, but is it hard to get sponsored into a US company? It is hard if the company doesn't have as much like money and lawyers and they're not as established. That's a bit harder. But if they are established, like FANG, then it's pretty easy. Yeah. Let's see. I see any good ones. Yeah, so I guess you guys are we're pretty much done in terms of the questions. Thank you so much for joining in to this live. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And for people who are not in the group Tech Interview Pro, well, this is kind of like a sample of what a live Q&A would look like. And yeah, check it out, Tech Interview Pro. And some of the links that we talked about, like Daily Interview Pro, the discount is on the description, and the TripleByte is on the description. Yeah, full transparency, that TripleByte link is like because I'm partnered with TripleByte, so yeah, that link is just but you could just go on normal TripleByte, it doesn't matter. Cool.
Cool.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And in the meanwhile, we'll be participating in the Facebook group as well. And check out the Discord server too. Shout out for that. Where you guys can get additional practice. It's really, as much as you put in. So
yeah. All right, see ya.
All right, thanks. See you.